let's go back to my favorite MSNBC morning show. Now, if you have an assortment of clips from Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough, I would love to see them because if I recall correctly, not that long ago, as recently as like last week or a week prior, Joe and Mika were calling Donald Trump Hitlerian, Adolf Hitler. Now, they have a very different attitude about Donald Trump.
Bending over backwards, treating him like a normal candidate. He's not a normal candidate. He is running to end American democracy as we know it. He's an authoritarian.
Damn, man, these guys are popping. I mean, they're popping off. They're popping off. They're so right. They're so right about this, okay?
He's constantly trying to distract. He's constantly trying to change the subject. He wants to talk about anything that will stop him from talking about policy because he doesn't know policy. He's never known policy. He never will know policy.
It's just like, damn, they're really popping off on this stuff. Let me see. Hold on. I want to see more from Joe talking about, before Donald Trump becomes president. Let's see what else he had to say.
And again, saying they're going to come to your kitchen or your house and slit your throat. That's where he's gotten. Can you imagine? First of all, it's hard to project this onto any other country because of the unique place and the unique role that the United States plays in global affairs. But could you imagine us following a campaign in the UK, in France, in any major industrialized country where somebody who is tied is running around talking about the eating of dogs and cats, talking about people coming to your houses and slitting your throats, talking about celebrating a day of violence, talking about being a dictator for a day. We could go down the list.
Wow, these guys are really popping off about Donald Trump and the very real and immediate danger that Donald Trump presents to the future of America. Donald Trump is hailing a modern version of American fascism and actively talking about how Donald Trump is doing that. Here's Joe calling him a danger to democracy and a liar.
Do you not call it a threat to democracy when Donald Trump says that he wants to execute the chairman of the Joint Chiefs for treason? Is that not a threat? Saying that your vice president deserves lynching? Saying that to your legal counsel?
So why am I showing all of this? Well, lo and behold, now that Donald Trump is president, Joe Scarborough on his morning show spent basically every waking moment blaming the libs, okay? Blaming the progressives, talking about trans people, talking about how woke was the reason why Donald Trump became president. And then this morning, as of today, it turns out, Joe Scarborough went from saying Donald Trump is Hitler to hiling Hitler. Personally, literally. They went from calling Donald Trump Hitler to hiling Hitler in less than a week. These people hate progressives who advocate for free college and free healthcare more than people who want to do mass deportations. They've only been complaining about the left this past month. Lo and behold, Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski, two people that were directly connected to Donald Trump in very meaningful ways for years and years and years, have rekindled that relationship once again. It turns out they don't mind how much of a fascist Donald Trump is.
Joe and I have heard from so many people, from political leaders to regular citizens, deeply dismayed by several of President-elect Trump's cabinet selections, and they are scared. Last Thursday, we expressed our own concerns on this broadcast and even said we would appreciate the opportunity to speak with the president-elect himself. On Friday, we were given the opportunity to do just that. Joe and I went to Mar-a-Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Now, we talked about a lot of issues, including abortion, mass deportation, threats of political retribution against political opponents, and media outlets. We talked about that a good bit. And it's going to come as no surprise to anybody who watches this show, has watched it over the past year or over the past decade, that we didn't see eye to eye on a lot of issues, and we told him so.
What we did agree on was to restart communications. My father often spoke with world leaders with whom he and the United States profoundly disagreed.
Her father, which I can't say his name, it's impossible, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Big Z himself, famously also talked about how wonderful it was that they had radicalized the Mujahideen in Afghanistan giving the USSR its own version of Vietnam. When directly asked a question about the threat of Islamist fundamentalism that the American government had actively spearheaded, okay, he said, what's more dangerous? We were able to bring the USSR to heel by activating these radical groups inside of Afghanistan, forcing them to do their own version of Vietnam that ended up destroying the USSR. A couple radical Islamist fundamentalists with arms is not that big of a threat. Now, of course, he said that before 9/11, famously. After 9/11, I wonder what his opinion was. I think he ran away from that interview. But that's neither here nor there. Big Z is just one of many different villains that has worked in the American administration. He's dead now, and it doesn't really matter. So let's get back to the matter at hand. Mika and Joe. I showed you guys all of the times when they were like, this guy's Hitler, this guy's Hitler, this guy's Hitler. And now they're saying they're having a cordial relationship that they have restarted with Adolf Hitler. So the question remains, were they lying when they said Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler? If you're a right-winger, you're going to point to this and say, of course they were lying. See, these guys don't believe anything that they're saying. And the right-wingers are, to a certain degree, correct. That they don't necessarily believe that Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler. They are correct on that. As someone looking at this from the outside, I do believe that Donald Trump is a fascist. I just simply think they don't care. I think they do not care that Donald Trump is a fascist because they want to keep their cushy media jobs. They want to keep their waning influence. And as ratings fall apart in a disastrous fashion for the likes of MSNBC and CNN, these brown nosers are trying to desperately cling on to any crumb of relevance they can. If they didn't care, why would they keep ringing alarm bells about it constantly before, though? Great question. But if they do care, why are they now capitulating? It's because liberals are showing their bellies, okay? Understand. This is why I said, looking at exactly what German liberalism looked like in the build-up to Nazi Germany, okay? German business owners, German capitalists, and their participation within the rise of Nazi Germany as his rise to power. Liberals actively collaborated with the Nazi movement against communists, trade unionists, and socialists alike. And history is unfolding once again. It's repeating itself once again. These are the liberals that have now decided that they would rather collaborate and collude with the fascist resurgence in this country than to actively resist it. This is why I also said things will be different this time around. When many people were talking about resistance liberalism and what that's going to look like, is it going to look exactly like 2016 when everyone immediately actively started talking about how they were going to resist against the Trump administration the first time around? I told you that it's not going to happen. Donald Trump has been president for 4 years already. These people are just going to treat him like any other Republican president. And in some respects, he is just like any other Republican president. And in many cases, he's not. He's a logical conclusion to right-wing reactionary attitudes, sentiments, and anger. And the resistance, never Trump Republicans, the resistance liberals are not going to be as active as they were in the media. They are going to look to find common ground with Adolf Hitler. They are going to look to find common ground with Adolf Hitler and purge Adolf Hitler's enemies. Hello. Understand that that is where we are at, okay? I think what is happening right now in liberal media is not an immediate resistance against like what Trump presents, but a normalization of Donald Trump. I think you will see this more and more. You will see more and more people normalizing Donald Trump and maybe even claiming, well, he's the president. We have to work with him. We have to work with what we have. Not only will they not resist in the ways that they tried to last time around, I think they're going to normalize it and look for an outgroup, look for a common enemy. And for a lot of these people who are already former Republicans themselves, like Joe Scarborough literally is a Republican, the common enemy will be marginalized people, defenseless people, trans people, undocumented immigrants, and the left as a whole. This is exactly what happened in Nazi Germany to a This is exactly what happened. To be honest, I don't see your point. You keep showing a clip of them saying they talked to him. So what? Are people not allowed to talk to him? If you say Donald Trump is Adolf Hitler, then you're basically saying you're talking to Adolf Hitler and you're reigniting your relationship with Adolf Hitler. You're not supposed to do that. What a ridiculous take. You either are openly demonstrating that you don't care that he's Adolf Hitler, or you're saying that you were lying about him being Adolf Hitler this whole time. Republicans will look at this and go, they were lying about Trump being Adolf Hitler. I look at this and go, they do not care that Donald Trump is a fascist.
That's a task shared by reporters and commentators alike. We had not spoken to President Trump since March of 2020, other than a personal call Joe made to Trump on the morning after the attempt on his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. In this meeting, President Trump was tearful. He was upbeat. He seemed interested in finding common ground with Democrats on some of the most divisive issues. And for those asking why we would go speak to the president-elect during such fraught times, especially between us, I guess I would ask back, why wouldn't we? 5 years of political warfare has deeply divided Washington and the country. We have been as clear as we know how in expressing our deep concerns about President Trump's actions and words in the coarsening of public debate. But for nearly 80 million Americans, election denialism, public trials, and January 6th were not as important as...
Those are not the worst parts of Donald Trump's potential second coming. The worst parts of Donald Trump's second coming is not January 6th, okay? It's mass deportations, you idiots. And it's very obvious that this is the reason why the Democrats never found a successful narrative that penetrated public consciousness on the dangers that Donald Trump represents. Because they like all the bad that he wants to do. They like all the that he is truly Hitlerian over, okay? They agree with it. That's the problem. They don't have a problem with mass deportations. Hold on. Let me find the Noam Chomsky clip. Here, U.S. Weimar Germany clip. 3 minutes, very fitting.
The world is thinking.
I'm not really thinking about the entertainment aspect of the media, though yes, it's significant. Thinking about the part that has substantive content, crazy content, but it is substantive. It does give answers. I mean, to people who for the last 30 years have seen their wages, income stagnate or decline, benefits decline, services decline, there's nothing for the children, out of control. These are the people who on polls, maybe 80% of them, say the country's going in the wrong direction. The government's run by the few and the special interests, not the people, and so on. They're not wrong. This is all happening to them. And the answers that they're getting from, say, Rush Limbaugh, Michael Savage, the rest of them are, well, we have an answer. The rich liberals own everything. They own the corporations. They run the government. They run the media. And they don't care about people like you. They don't care about the flyover people between the East Coast and the West Coast. They only care about giving everything you worked for away to, to illegal immigrants or, gays or something. So we got to protect ourselves from them. And furthermore, they run the government.
Noam Chomsky was saying this in 2009, chat, just so you understand. Being a leftist is being right, but too early. Noam Chomsky has never stopped talking about this stuff, by the way, as well. He was talking about this in 2009.
Put up a health program. It's not to give you health. It's to kill your granny. And that's an answer to something. It's a terrible answer, but it is an answer. And if you do suspend disbelief, you forget about what's happening in the world, really, it's a coherent answer. Now, they're not hearing anything else. And the memory that comes to my mind, again, I don't want to press the analogy too hard, but I think it's worth thinking about, is late Weimar Germany. There were people with real grievances. The Nazis gave them an answer. It's the fault of the Jews and the Bolsheviks, and we got to protect ourselves from them. And that'll take care of your grievances.
And now it's the fault of immigrants and gay people and trans people.
And we know what happened. Germany in the 1920s was
Palestinians.
The peak of Western civilization in the arts and the sciences, highly democratic, functioning democratic institutions. A decade later, it was the pits of human history. Again, the analogy is not close, but it's frightening. And unless an answer can be given to these people, unless they can be led to understand what's really happening to them, we could be in for trouble.
Joe and I realize it's time to do something different And that starts with not only talking about Donald Trump, but also talking with him.
Yeah. Demonstrating the endless liberal attitude that if you can't beat him, you join him. That is the point.